Stellantis just halted production of two of their most famous Jeeps, the Wrangler and the Grand Cherokee. And as on top of it, they're firing the workers. Everybody knows sales are drastically down for Stellantis in general, but a lot of their Jeep products just aren't selling. With the high prices, they've elected to sell to a more upstream marketplace. But yet that upstream market doesn't exist because the very manufactured vehicles that they produce, for example, Jeeps, were initially intended for the middle class. And the middle class can't afford to pay $80,000, $90,000 for a Jeep Wrangler. They can't afford to pay $100,000 for a stepped up version of a Grand Cherokee. I believe it's limited, or at least my wallet's limited. I can't afford this because the Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4x4 2024 going for $74,000. That's beyond me. But we also can't forget about or ignore some of the quality control challenges that they've seen recently. Have you actually heard? Very recently, Jeep has also announced that they've had some drastic problems. Yes, it's been the reports of 9 separate incidents where the new Wrangler has burned to the ground. As a matter of fact, there's even been a death and an accident or an injury over the result of one of those situations. On top of it, to make matters worse, these vehicles were often burning even with the key outside of the ignition, and many reporters or insiders were advising not to park their vehicles inside the garage until they were figured out and what the problem was actually exposed. But after some digging around, it felt like it possibly could have been an electrical connector connecting up to the power steering pump. Regardless, suffice it to say, NHTSA has raised their eyebrows and perked right up at the very thought of some of these Jeeps burning roadside. A Stellantis spokesperson reached out and said, Stellantis continues to take the necessary actions to improve the operations in the US market. And on top of that, we will continue to monitor the situation to assess whether further action is needed. Clearly, they've actually had to shut down the assembly line and stop production of the Wrangler and the Jeep Grand Cherokee, two of the most popular Jeeps known in history. I mean, originally Jeep was known as one of the Americans' favorites. It used to be an affordable vehicle you can get in, bang around in the mud, have fun, take it out on the weekend, throw the top back up and drive it to work on Monday morning. It used to be that vehicle that even high school kids could afford. It didn't cost that much money, and even the Grand Cherokees were only a minor step above the base Cherokee, which was a boxy little special that was also good for banging around on rough off-roading. Now, unfortunately, we've seen what happened to the Cherokee. It turned into a small little unibody special and really was not much more than a minivan. The Jeep Grand Cherokee expanded into something that was trying to nip at the heels of Audi Q7s as well as the BMW X5s. To little no avail, people that are shopping for the luxury vehicles aren't generally going to Jeep. They're clearly not selling because people like you and I, we are literally the people that this market is targeting, and we can't afford it. These prices are too high. I look at these, and while I'd love to have a mid-size SUV like this is a Grand Cherokee right here. This is a Cherokee Altitude 4x4. I can see on the sticker right there. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the paintwork on it. It is a 4x. You get the nice, obviously updated features. It definitely has a nice look to it. You get the glossy rims over there. Very, very nice. Painted handles. This definitely feels a little luxurious. But the Grand Cherokee L Altitude 4x4, $69,450. But Jeep was trying to chase the luxury car segment. Meantime, they had nothing to do with it. And it leaves the Jeep, $180,000, $90,000 Jeep, in a weird neutral spot that nobody wants to buy. Hence, sales are drastically down. So at the beginning of August, it was reported based on Cox Automotive that the industry average days supply was sitting around 68 days. That puts it about 2 months. A vehicle lands off the truck, puts on the lot, and a month or two later, it's sold. Obviously, Toyotas and Hondas sell a lot quicker, as do Lexus vehicles. But on the other end of the spectrum, manufacturers like Jaguar are one of the slow sellers. So is Alfa Romeo, Fiat, and of course Ram, Jeep, and any of the other Stellantis products tend to be on the other side of the spectrum. Clearly, it tells you a story. Quality is part of the issue, as well as pricing is the other aspect. People used to consider Ram the affordable pickup truck. No more, too much money. The Jeeps used to be affordable. That ship has sailed. And so where does that leave them? Well, they're now sitting at about 4 to 5 months days supply. And the average about $70,000, $75,000. So we have another couple $1 million worth of inventory right there. Oh, he's not liking this. Hey, buddy. Hey, don't forget to subscribe. In other words, where most manufacturers are sitting a month to 2 months, we're looking at Jeeps that are taking anywhere 4, 5, 6 months to sell on average. But yet, when you peruse the lots, and I often do, I can point out to you rows and rows and rows of Jeeps that aren't selling. And many of them are 23 and 24 model years. And the 25s are rolling in, and it leaves these allocations flooded. People don't know what to do with the 2023 model years. The dealers are lost in the haze, and they can't get them out the door fast enough. Even with some of the big incentives, customers just walk in, and for a $2,000 discount, they figure, I might as well just buy a brand new 25. Why bother with that 23? So now you have lot rot taken over, and the Jeep Stellantis products are especially susceptible, seeing as a lot of those vehicles sit much, much longer than any other brands out on the market today. A lot of these vehicles by Stellantis are sitting around for weeks, months, and even years in some cases. That means the idea of lot rot is kicking into high gear. And yet, people are buying these vehicles. Of course, yeah, they're heavily incentivized. People are getting deals, small discounts, but you can't replace the fact that these tires are only rated for 8 or 9 years. The batteries to turn this vehicle on are only good for 5 or 6 years before they need replacing. Just look at your owner's manual. Fluids are deteriorating, engines are deteriorating, tires, paint, everything is rotting away. That's right, lot rot is taking a toll because these vehicles are sitting so long. So back in December of 2023 in Michigan, where they were producing the Jeep Grand Cherokee product, they actually elected, or that Stellantis and Jeep elected, to reduce the amount of manufacturing shifts from 3 shifts down to 2 because of production. People weren't buying them. They wanted to slow and halt production because the output wasn't being accepted. Buyers weren't taking the vehicles that were sitting on the lots. And so they had to slow production intentionally at the manufacturing facilities to accommodate the slower sales out in the field. But at the same time, the Toledo, Ohio plant, which was manufacturing the Jeep Wrangler, also decided to take some course of action and reduce the production outputs because they weren't selling as many as they needed to sell of those vehicles either. So at the Wrangler facilities, they were going from the alternative or alternate work arrangement back down to something more conventional, 2 shifts, just to reduce the amount of vehicles that they were putting out because clearly the sales were down. So there's a conversation of, do I have the money? And then there's the value proposition that people just don't see that value proposition. It's not worth the money. And it all comes down to day supply, which again, stems from quality challenges, the reputation of poor quality, as well as the high prices. Nobody has the money to pay $78,000 for a plug-in hybrid Jeep Wrangler. It's just way beyond most people's means. It's bad enough the cost of living crisis is real, and yet Stellantis, it feels like with all of their ineptitude and mistargeting of the actual core buyer of these types of vehicles, they've actually forgot to start selling vehicles, which is what their core fundamental business model. So there are some options on here, but how much is this Rubicon with the locking hubs? I mean, that's a feature. We all need that to drive around in the city. So what we need is a price tag on a 2024 Rubicon X 4xe. How about $85,000? Is that enough for you? I mean, clearly the prices are high on the Grand Cherokees. We're seeing them on the Compass as well as the Wranglers. It's no wonder they're not selling very fast. And every time I come out here, I'm seeing the same vehicles time and time and time again. And we know these floor plan costs are taking a toll, gnawing on the backside of each one of these dealers. So as a result of both of these changes on both manufacturing facilities, both the Grand Cherokee as well as the Wrangler, sadly, many people had to get their walking papers and layoffs were imminent. Of course, hundreds of workers lost their jobs. And so in the first half of 2024, the continuing saga of disappointments and poor sales goes on for Stellantis. And as a result, they decided that they would have to make some quick, swift, and decisive moves on a course of action because of the poor sales. The CFO, Natalie Knight, also commented that both US and Canada might see a lowering of prices just to try to stimulate sales again. Well, prices, according to a lot of you folks out there, are saying you're going to have to see 30, 40, 50% price decreases. None of this $5,000, $2,000 off. That's clearly not speaking the same language, and a lot of people are expecting much bigger discounts, which we haven't seen yet. Now, sadly, more plans for the back end of 2024 might reduce operating expenses further with logistics, with supply chain challenges, and they're even saying likely more layoffs to follow. Sales were so devastating for Stellantis that Wrangler was down 33% in terms of sales in the first half of 2024, while the Jeep Grand Cherokee was down almost 20% or about 19% sales decline from 2023 to 24. People aren't buying these vehicles. Nobody wants them. Clearly, with 33%, a third down decrease in sales is clearly telling a very distinct story. The prices are way too high. Now, Stellantis did in fact return these vehicles back into production, and they said it was all for production adjustments. But we all know what the writing on the wall is. With big recalls, engine fires, we're seeing poor sales because of high prices, and the entire Stellantis envelope is seeing devastating sales records. What is that clearly telling you? Now, Stellantis said, and we've seen the CEO talk and say, look, we need to do something more drastic. We need to address quality control. And as well, we need to turn this ship around right and make the sales increase again. We need to promote the products and provide a quality product that people can get behind. So sure, while Jeep Stellantis is back online producing Jeeps again, they've had to make some production adjustments. Potentially, they've laid off some staff and they're working on closing facilities. On top of it, they're reducing the numbers of vehicles that are outputting to the field, as the dealers themselves can't handle all of the allocations coming down for 2025 when they can't even sell the existing product line. Now, we know that the dealers from Jeep and Stellantis, any of the dealers out in the field, the Rams, the independent dealers, are asking and screaming and begging for mercy from the dealer or from the manufacturer, Stellantis, to say, look, we need help. And we need more than just a song and a dance and a 2% discount and a little bit of minor incentives. We need serious help because we're not selling the products. And you honestly couldn't even give a Ram dealership or a Jeep dealership away to anybody right now because everybody knows that they're hemorrhaging money just trying to keep the lights on. Sales are poor. Sales are in the tank. We know we've also seen Ram with some big ugly recalls recently where it can literally shut down. Problems literally every which way is plaguing the brand. But Jeep has their own new sets of nuances and challenges these days. And we're seeing it. Vehicles like the Jeep Compass charging 47. I've even seen the Compass go for...
I think I've literally seen it all. I mean, the price of this vehicle here, would you believe this is the Compass? This is more or less their entry-level vehicle. Let's take a look. We have a Trailhawk, and yes, they have this nice little graphic package on the top. You'll notice the wheels, they actually put in all-terrain tires. Okay, great. That, if you had to buy those tires, might cost you an extra $500 retail. There's the Compass, of course. You get the high-gloss package there. Of course, you got the big sunroof on top, roof rack, that's great. But how much is this Compass Trailhawk Elite? As we see right here, it's the Elite, and it's a 24. Base price $45,000, and oh no, $55,050 right there. Now I've seen just about enough. 55, you're 60 grand out the door for a Compass?
Nobody can find it within themselves to justify those types of dollars for that type of vehicle. It's clearly missing the mark for the lunchbox Joe like you and I. We just can't justify paying that kind of money for a Jeep. And no, neither can anybody else, and that's why sales are down. And with all of that said, check out that video right there, the truck market and how it is absolutely taking a toll on the buyer. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.